and it's a win-win. We get exposure to their customers, their database. They get exposure to ours. It's a win-win.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Von Horn.
Today, we're going to be talking about neighborhood hustle, franchise growth through Grassroots with my friend Ray Dunn. Ray, welcome to the Franchise Secrets podcast, where we unpack real strategies from real franchise pro like you. I'm going to call you a grassroots marketing legend. I'm sure you'll love that. Let's start.
Well, thanks, Erik. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a big fan and a big follower, as you know.
Oh man, we go way back to like Lynn Haven Parkway. I think it was.
You were in junior high, weren't you?
I think I was. I was so green. I didn't know anything. I was so green getting into franchising in general. And looking back, like I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So thank God that I got involved with a brand that was decent and had some good training and good leadership. And, you know, a lot of us got our start way back when at Liberty. And some people have gone on to just do amazingly successful things in and outside of franchising, yourself included. So looking forward to having you on.
Thanks. You know, when I think about that time, and I'm sure you do too, just the incredible education we all got in entrepreneurship, franchising, and absolutely, you know, community marketing, which I feel like you know, John Hewitt and us, we kind of invented, but I'm sure some other folks would argue that.
J. Conrad Levinson might differ with you. And he might pick a beef with you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm not aware of any really significant organization that just embraced it as part of the culture and as part of the business plan.
100%. And I think, and I've come to appreciate that. Back then, I'm like, we have to do guerrilla marketing because we don't have a big brand. This is not good, but we did it. And then I've come to appreciate from the outside looking in how other brands have embraced guerrilla marketing, even though it looked like they didn't need to, and they continue to do it. An example of that is Orange Theory Fitness. I've had some of their top franchisees, and I'm friends with some of their top franchisees, to talk about like the guerrilla marketing that they do and why they do it. And they go hard after that. Even when they were at their peak and had a really good name, they were still doing grassroots, guerrilla, neighborhood marketing. And so then I started to remember all the things that we used to do and how relevant that is for every franchisee and franchisor out there right now. And so that's why we're here.
And you know, we're fortunate enough. We've worked hard for many, many years. And Grassroots has always been part of from day one, part of the strategy. And, you know, we are literally the Pilates kings of Southeastern Virginia, with thousands of members and, you know, 4 studios. And we're still just as committed to getting out in the community and, you know, just elevating that brand awareness. We're probably more committed to it today than we were back in 2018, just because we've seen the results.
100%. I want to give you like a little bit of what I used to do back then, just so the audience has some context. And I'd love you to share a little bit as well. So when we say we were deep into guerrilla neighborhood marketing, I remember waking up early in the morning in business, having hundreds of Krispy Kreme, like 6 or dozen donut boxes, like hundreds of them. We would go there and I would load up my red Jeep Grand Cherokee multiple times a day with those things. And then we would go out and start introducing ourselves to all of the neighboring businesses. And I thought I was doing pretty well at it because I was doing 50 of them, 50 deliveries in the morning. And I remember hearing somebody's like, we doubled that and then we 4x that. And I'm like, wow, if I really want to be doing this well, I need to increase my intensity and the quantity, and then also pay attention to how I'm doing it. And so I remember putting on the Uncle Sam costume, the Lady Liberty costume, full donuts, because we had this phrase back then. John Hewitt is always telling us, if it is to be, it's up to me. Meaning, like, it's up to you as a franchisee to get out there and make it happen in your local business, in your local market. No excuses, get it done. And the system improved over the years. But I just remember that. And I'm like, I need to do this. And if I'm good at doing 50 donut deliveries a day, then that's okay. And I should expect results that delivers. But if I'm doing 4 times that and I'm doing 200 a day, my results are going to be a lot more. And we did that for months at a time, over years. And so when we talk about guerrilla marketing, we were in the trenches doing it, and I did it at different levels at different times. But give the audience a sense of, like, you were kind of more directing people on that kind of stuff, but like, give us a sense of your background and go back to the good old days.
Sure. Well, I'm a retired CPA, and I refer to myself as a recovering CPA. I joined Liberty Tax Service. That was my introduction to franchising in 1999 as their chief financial officer, and after a few years looking around saying, gosh, I need to be owning these things, right? So became an area developer, and left the corporate staff, did both for a long time, left the corporate staff in 2008, continued to run my Liberty area development, exited that had a very successful exit out of that a few years ago. Also a few years ago, and there was some overlap here, was looking for other things to add, and came across Club Pilates and did that. Very happy I did. Applied some of the principles that we learned in franchising to this business, and it's worked out very well. Yeah, back in the day, you and I both know a ton of top performers at Liberty Tax Service, and it was just clear in every case the ones that were the top performers were the ones that were embracing getting out into the community every possible way they could think of. Right, a way to measure that, the effectiveness of that. Again, you already hit the nail on the head when we were competing with a household name. We were competing with H&R Block. Almost everybody in this country at some point has been an H&R Block customer, right? They were a household name, as I said. And here we were, new to the market, no brand name, no market. We could not match their paid advertising. We had to do something different. And this was a big component of it. We had very little paid advertising at the local level. But I'm sure you did this. We were instructed. One way to test the effectiveness was to go to a Liberty store and go start maybe 2 miles down the highway or whatever, and just start going into every business and saying, "Oh, hey, I'm new in town. Do you? I need to get my tax return filed. Do you know anywhere?" Right? And or sometimes you would ask, "Hey, I think there's a Liberty Tax Service ready. Do you know where it is?" And depending on the answer, you could determine whether that office was doing a good job at the what we call guerrilla marketing or not. Many times I would get, "Oh yeah, oh, you should go to Liberty Tax Service," or, "Oh yeah, they're down next to McDonald's," or whatever. And sometimes you would get, "Nah, oh, I go to H&R Block, yeah, or no, Liberty, no, I haven't heard of them." And that was almost certainly the office that just wasn't getting out in the community. So it was very clear.
Couple tactical things with that. I'm so glad I forgot about that. I'm glad you brought that up because like franchisees and franchisors, listen to this. Like this is a way for you to measure how well you're known in your market. And so go to 10 businesses and maybe start at a mile out if you need to, or go to 3 miles out, go into different shopping centers, or maybe the same shopping center. Just go in and say, hey, where is the place, where's the best place, or do you know a place to get X done? Whether, to get, I want to take a Pilates class. I want to get a massage. I want to get my eyelashes done. I want to get a spray tan. Whatever it is, do that. Keep track of the business that you went to, what their response was, and then like I've got 7 out of 10 said they didn't know where you were. Well, you got work to do. And then track that and then share that with your staff. So, because when you're in your location day in and day out for 6 months, you think everybody knows where you are and they're tired of hearing from you. But then you go out into the market to see what the market says, and the market usually says something different. And I got one more comment, and I'm going to give it back to you, Ray. So you ask them, do you know, like, then the follow-up question to them is, if they say, yeah, go to like Club Pilates, do you know where we are? How do I get there? And if they have a hard time explaining that, you've done a bad job of putting that out into the marketplace, whether it's on your flyers, on your website, or whatever. And a lot of times you want to use landmarks, not just a road. Like we're at 596 First Avenue. No, it's like, hey, we're directly across from the HEB, or whatever those landmarks are. And the way to get those landmarks that you can put on your material is go into the neighboring businesses that are in your current shopping center and say, hey, how do you tell people to get here? And just ask them that, see what they say. And they're going to probably tell you the best way to tell people how to get here. That's what you want to use on your print, on different types of advertising that you're doing out there. When you're out there doing guerrilla marketing, that's what you implant into everybody's heads. So anyway, Ray, I thought that was gold. Anything to add or any extra comments?
Well, it also speaks to the importance of visibility in any kind of brick and mortar, particularly retail business. I look at rent really as more of a marketing expense than anything else. And because of that visibility component, because of the neighboring tenants, the demographic of the crowd that's going to come to whatever location, or the same demographic you're looking for. I talk to franchisees all the time. One of my big pieces of advice is, don't cheap out on rent, because it's, think of it as a marketing expense, and visibility can take your business through the roof, and bad visibility can sink you like a stone.
100%. All right. So let's talk about what you are doing now. How many Club Pilates do you have in that Hampton Roads, Virginia, Chesapeake area?
Sure. We have 4 Club Pilates studios, 2 in Virginia Beach, 2 in Chesapeake. We're getting ready to actually double the size of our biggest studios. They're all pretty big, but our biggest one, we're getting ready to double the size of that. And it's exciting.
So I have other friends in Club Pilates. I know how much money they're making, and they're doing very well. So I just want to, set the stage for that you're talking to not just a multi-unit franchisee, I would say a semi-absentee franchisee that knows his business very well and is very successful financially. Now, not everybody is but this is pretty common in franchising. You have your top performers, you have your middle performers, and then you have people that are not making money and not doing very well. That's pretty much franchising in general. So, but the people that excel usually are like Ray. There's a reason why they're doing well. And so if you're a buyer out there thinking about buying a franchise, you just got to know who you're talking to. And you're not going to ask them, are you an underperformer? They're probably going to tell you they're an underperformer by the way that they answer questions. and you're going to understand they're a top performer because of the things that you hear in Ray today. So I just wanted to set the stage for the audience so they know kind of the level of franchisee that they're talking to. Not only do you have the years of experience, but you're successful in all kinds of ways. Also, with that, I don't like it when franchisees buy a franchise and they think it's going to be completely passive and then just set it and forget it, and there's no work involved. So I want you to kind of explain what you do in the business in Club Pilates. Sure. Was it always that way? And why do you have it set up that way? To give the listeners an accurate picture of, I would call it semi-absentee.
Sure. I don't know. You can put any kind of number of names on it. Just so you know, I mean, I am virtually never in my studios. Nobody wants to see a fat old guy in a Pilates studio. But having said that, I probably put in 3 to 5 hours a day in my office behind my desktop, looking at activities and supporting my managers. What I do is manage our managers, and my business partner, Amy, who you know. We manage our managers. Amy has a full-time endeavor. I don't. So other than this, but I'm as busy as I want to be, and I love it. Absentee is, I'm not sure there's anything really successful that really is absentee. Now, having said that, when I was looking at other franchise opportunities, I never wanted to buy a job, right? Mm-hmm. Never, ever, ever. And I remember being at Discovery Day at Club Pilates back in 2017. And I said to one of the executives, I said, one of the reasons that this is very intriguing to me is there is no chance that I will ever teach a Pilates class. And he looked at me and said, you get it? And I said, yeah, I get it. I'm going to put the right people in the right places, give them the tools they need to succeed, support them in that success, and that's my job as an owner. But you got to be plugged in. It's not. I haven't seen a set it and forget it opportunity. I really haven't.
So you're semi-absentee from, you're not necessarily in the business, working in the locations and whatnot, but you're very, you know the business inside and out. You know the levers to pull. You know if things aren't going well, and you're managing the manager. So when I think of semi-absentee, that's what I think about. Also, you're local to the market, which I think absolutely helps. Maybe not a necessity. I've found it to be very important for me to have one of the owners in the business to be in the local market. All right, let's go into like really why you're here. Like, you're doing some great things with event-based like community marketing, building relationships. And I want to kind of break that down. Let's kind of give the audience a masterclass on how to create events, co-sponsored. I don't even know what you want to call it, Ray, but break it down, man. This is one of the reasons you're doing so well. So break it down for us. What are you doing well and why?
Well, what drove our continuation of the things we had learned at in other franchises, when we opened our first studio in 2018 in Chesapeake, again, we were the first Club Pilates studio in the area. And not only that, but there were very few, literally a handful of independent mom and pop studios. And we're not a major metro, but, we're Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, the surrounding DMA. We're 1.8 million people, so we're not small, but we're not DC or Manhattan. But again, just not a lot of Pilates going on. So nobody knew our brand name. Not a lot of people knew what Pilates was, right? And our goal was to, how do we get people into our studio to try us, right? And of course, we had an ad budget. Of course, we did social media, and on the local level and national level, we did some direct mail, which I'll never ever do again. But we did everything, and we said, well, our instinct says we have to get out of the community and let people know who we are, what we do, and why you should come by and give it a try, right? So for us, how does that manifest itself? For us, we want to go places where our demographic is going. We think will be, right? We're not going to go to tattoo parlors, right? We understand not there's anything against tattoo parlors or their constituency, but it's not our demographic, right? So for us, it's things like breweries, coffee shops, parks. It's not like we stroll through the park and look for people, but those are where we have events. We're a beach town, so having events down on the boardwalk or on the beach at the ocean front, those are huge draws. And what we want to do is we want people to sample our service or product. I believe in sampling a lot. That's worked for many, many businesses. So we will, and the way I kind of made this connection was in my Facebook feed way back when. Oddly enough, a lot of breweries would pop up. I like beer, right? And I kept seeing these yoga at the brewery, right? And there's just so many of them. And I said, golly, we can do that too. We can do Pilates. No, we can't do full blown. If you're familiar with Pilates, there's several different pieces of equipment. We're not hauling, reformers out to a brewery, right? But that even kind of adds to the mystique a little bit. We're doing mat Pilates. People come out, they have a great experience, and we let them know that glad you loved it, but just so you know, this is kind of entry level Pilates. All the stuff we have at the studio, the reformer, the TRX machines, the Bosu balls, it's phenomenal, and that piques their interest even more. So it was easy to make connections with the things I mentioned because they're looking to bring people in, right? And looking to give people a reason to come to their business, right? So it wasn't hard to create those partnerships, and so we also not only do we invite prospects and leads and general public and everybody, we invite members too because it's also a retention play for us, right? Our whole mantra is just building community within our studio. And when we take that, and so our people like getting together out of the studio too. And those are really the gold conversations. It's great when you create some brand awareness. People see your wind feather and you're there and you give them a great class and you can chat with the staff and da-da-da-da-da. But the real gold is those conversations that those prospects have with current members. And, all you have to do is just, if you scroll through any of our Google reviews on our studios, what these people are saying to prospects. And it's just pure gold. It really is. So
it's an easy ask for current members. Like current members want to come. So think about like anybody out there with a franchise or business, like you have current customers. What can you do to get them around potential customers and use some type of event to do that? So we're talking about Pilates specifically, but as you're listening to Ray, be thinking like, okay, this worked for Pilates or fitness or whatever it is. Like, how can I do something that is for my business where my current customers already like to go? a brewery, a park, or whatever, and then how can I do something that they would want to invite their friends or people that want to, like Ray said, sample my product, sample my service? Where would they, what would be an easy way for them to come sample it? It's non-intimidating for somebody that's wanting to try Pilates for the first time. So I'm a huge believer in this. And by the way, this is not an expensive thing, because we did a mastermind session on this. You were talking to the franchisees, and the franchisee mastermind kind of gave them the full deep dive, full playbook on this. But it's not, I was surprised. Like, you're not paying for, you're not renting out the brewery, paying the paying for everybody's beer for 3 hours. Like, what was it? Well, like, what kind of cost is structure is associated with one event?
It's a couple hours of payroll. It's like $75 or less.
Yeah. You don't need to spend a bunch of money. I think once you do spend a lot of money on something like that, then that's kind of the norm, and that's what's to be expected. So you're probably setting the expectation. If you're buying a couple rounds for everybody, then, one, that's probably some liability. And then two, that adds up, and you'll probably want to do less of those classes. Make the thing valuable, make that the thing versus, having something really, really expensive.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is, if you're a franchisor and you're frustrated that you're not awarding as many franchises as you thought you would, this is the reason I created the Franchisor Mastermind. If you want access to the information, the techniques that the best franchise sales organizations are using to award franchises, and you want what mature brands have with their playbook of having happy, successful franchisees that grow the right way, then you might want to check out the Franchisor Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections. They want the playbook to achieve both short-term and long-term success. They want to increase enterprise value in their brand. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com.
How do you build relationships? So everybody out there thinking like, I want to do something like that, something with an event that's out of my particular location. How do I start to build relationships with like business or businesses with like customers? Like how do you go about doing that?
Sure. A couple of ways. First of all, it's pretty easy, at least in our context and what we are offering. When we do, and B2B is also a big part of our strategy. And the B2B, particularly on the intro, it's always, how can we help you? We'll.
So when you say B2B, that is you or your manager going out to neighboring businesses and initiating that conversation with them. And you're not like, hey, let's do a pop-up event together, or how can we come in here and do something? How can you help us? You go in like, how can we help you? And that's the lead of a conversation when you're just introducing yourself to neighboring businesses or businesses that you might do something with, right?
Right. And we host pop-ups at or outside of our studio all the time. We love that, particularly now, we target, kind of health and wellness writ large, right? There's a lot of things that can kind of fall under that umbrella. If there's even, just some sort of distant connection, that's fine. Our members love that. I mean, we do it to, it gives them exposure to somebody interesting after class, wants them to sample a smoothie product or something like that. They love it. Doesn't cost us anything. Why not? But we do look for that two-way street, right? and those are the most successful relationships. And so we want to be back there. Another thing that we will offer on a B2B basis is what we call Pilates parties. You walk into a dentist's office and, hey, would you be interested in bringing your staff out for a Pilates class, kind of a team building Pilates class one day? We'd be happy to set that up for you. And we don't charge anything for that. That's 12 new leads for us. Why would we charge anything for that? And we get members out of it too. So we offer them something. Anything else we can do, then it becomes they either ask us or we ask them, hey, can we do a pop-up here one day? Would that be okay? And, if it's a good relationship, the answer to that is almost always yes, Now, when it comes to events, for instance, this weekend we have a free mat class at it's the word that I can't say. One of the words I can't say. Esthetician.
Esthetician. Come on, man. Yeah. I've been in the beauty industry. I know all this stuff. That's an esthetician.
Yeah, that's right. I stumble over that word all the time. But we have a aesthetic and esthetician business, and we're doing a mat class there. That comes under the health and wellness umbrella, right? And it's a win-win. We get exposure to their customers, their database. They get exposure to ours. It's a win-win. And then, of course, we have regular standing monthly events at, I'd say, 5 or 6 a month, usually. A little more in the summer, a little less in the winter. But breweries, coffee shops, things like that. Just some regular, first Tuesday of every month, we're at this brewery. Second Saturday of every month, we're at this coffee shop. And so, yeah, it's a great thing.
Why does a coffee shop want you there? Like, why would a coffee shop say, yeah, come over and advertise your business to all my customers? What makes a coffee shop say yes to that?
People buy coffee after they do, a 45-minute Pilates class. They buy coffee. So they're selling product for sure.
So as you're doing, I've got ChatGPT pulled up here, and I'm doing so much with ChatGPT. I've got on my list of custom GPTs to create is a neighborhood marketing GPT. And so I think I will do that. I'm going to feed it stuff like what Ray and I are talking about, along with some other amazing stuff. And I'll make that a public custom GPT. So in other words, if you don't have a clue of what I just said, you can just use it as a Google, but it's fully focused and educated on guerrilla marketing, grassroots marketing, etc. And so you can just go in and type in to this thing. It says, hey, I've got we'll just use GoGlow as an example. It's one of our portfolio companies. I've got a company called GoGlow. We're in this market in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I'm not sure our customer is, whoever the customer is. I'd like to do some grassroots marketing. I'd like to do some events. Where do I start? And it will kick out stuff for you. And what other local businesses do my current customers frequent? Where are they? If it's soccer mom, it'll tell you who they are. It'll say soccer moms or whoever it is. And then you're like, what businesses can I create partnerships with? What does a partnership look like? It will kick all of that stuff out there for you. So I'll make that available in that free Facebook group. So franchisesecretsgroup.com. Most listeners are probably already in there, but that GPT, if you don't have a clue of where to start, that thing will basically kick it out for you. And it'll probably even tell you how to market it and whatnot. Right. But people just need to start.
That's a great point. Not every business is a great opportunity, right? We've been pitched about a year ago. What we want, obviously we need space to do a Pilates class, but we want to go to a business where our customers are, where they have foot traffic and flow, right? And they'll see it. They may not be part of the class, but they're going to see us there and go, oh, Pilates, that's cool. So we were approached about a year ago from a business that they did outdoor patios, right? And they had a big showroom, right? And they said, "Oh, gee, hey, we'd love for you to come and do a class here, and we'll have snacks after and all that kind of stuff." And in my mind, I was thinking, I don't know how much I could see why they would want us to bring a bunch of people there. That made total sense to them, but I couldn't really see where we were going to benefit because in my mind, I was like, well, what kind of foot traffic do they? I mean, they might have a few people walk in and out, but I think that there were better opportunities for us. So we some we turned down. Some we turned down for sure.
I think we should talk about the prize. So we were talking about that in the mastermind. I had an idea for you. So what, talk about I don't know what it is, Ray, but you're saying people sign up for a free month or to win a free month. Tell us about how you collect the names and what you do with those names and whatnot.
Sure. When we have pop-ups or when we have events, the events, obviously you have some activity involved. You're doing a Pilates class. When we have pop-ups, or when we're part of some larger event with many vendors, right? We've learned that you need something interactive, right? To draw people and to hold people at your table, right? We learned a long time ago that if you're just sitting there, saying hi to people as they walk by or trying to hand them a flyer, you don't get a ton of interactions, right? So what we've learned is you need that interaction, and so we'll have a prize wheel, or we'll go somewhere and we'll have a plank contest, and we'll have our chalkboard there. Put your name up there, and who did the longest plank that day, so that creates a lot of interactivity, creates much easier and better conversations, and we always have a prize, whether we're giving away a water bottle or a branded water bottle, or all the way up to a free month of Pilates. You have to give us your info for that because it's a drawing of some sort, right? And you have to have those forms ready, I know you're putting together a list of kind of things you have to have, right? Be prepared, right? And you got to have those little cards ready for them to write out what they need, name, phone number, email, right? And people are motivated to give you their correct contact information, right? Because they want the prize. And then, you have a drawing, and if it's a free month of Pilates, not everybody is a winner, right? But if it's a water bottle or a pair of socks or something like that, almost everybody's a winner, right?
So I had
to follow up with them.
I love that you said you want to offer something of value, so they give you the right contact information. You do want that. And then I remember listening to a really smart, successful marketer probably about 5 years ago. And he was on stage talking about the similar type thing. And he said, you know what people love? They love to win. And so if you have one big prize, and that person's really happy that they won that really good prize, but then you have 100 people that didn't win anything, or they didn't win something very great. And he's like, why not just give them tell them they're the second place winner, and they get, instead of a full month, they get a half a month, or they get half price for a month to try it out. Give something very valuable for that second place winner. And by the way, he said, everybody's a second place winner. So that way you have something valuable to give them. And all of a sudden, maybe you had a bad number and a good email. Now you probably have a good email and a good number. And if the goal is to get that customer going from a a looker to a trier, someone that's actually trying your service and they're paying a little bit for it or a steep discount. But like that, if that's the goal to get them in, if they sample it a little bit or they learn about it a little bit and then they sample it and they can become a customer, like if that's the goal, then I would at least test something as a very high level second prize. You know what I also might want to do at some point? Let's just, I think maybe just like, what if everybody, if there's 20 of them, what if everybody is a first place winner? Like, what if everybody, you get 20 names and they get that? It'd be interesting to see, how many of those convert to a real customer. And then, your customer acquisition cost from that because, and to see how many are long-term customers. And you can test that against paid advertising or whatever it is. So it could, that works. So I don't know. I'm just a big fan of like trying and testing stuff like that to find out what the real goal is versus thinking like, no, I'm not going to give a free month of whatever or a free service of whatever. Like, but I don't know, right? Like, give me your true thoughts on that, on giving something of high value to those types of customers.
Well, there's value and there is cost.
Yeah.
Right. And those are two different things.
Are you going to tell me I'm wrong? If you're going to tell me I'm wrong, we're just going to cut this out.
No, not at all.
I'm teasing you. I was hoping you would, because then we can get into a big fight. No, but I really do. I want your real opinion on this, and because I don't know that I'm right. This is good conversation.
Right. Well, again, there's a difference between some things have a very perceived high value, and not the cost for me to provide that is not much. For instance, the incremental cost of one more person in a Pilates class to me is $3. Okay, that is my incremental cost because we have a payment scheme for how instructors get paid, and part of it is for how many people were in their class, and it's $3, right? The value of that, if somebody goes to buy, we're a membership model, right? But we do sell single classes. If you can go on our website and buy a single class for $35, right? But my cost is $3, right? So for me, giving away a class or a couple of classes or even a full month, I'm not sure I would, we give away full months all the time. I'm not sure, to me, that's an everybody kind of winner prize. But to me, a class, absolutely. I mean, that's our whole, everything we spend on marketing and the ad fund and social media and things like that. The whole point of that is to try to get somebody in to try a class, right? So why wouldn't I give that away to where and everybody's a winner? The second prize, maybe the first prize is the free month. The second prize is a free class, right? I mean, I'm writing checks, trying for advertising, trying to get people to do that, right? So why wouldn't I give it away?
I love that. I think you're 100% right. I think if I was you, I would test it, but I would probably test out first. The second place prize is a free class, and it has to be done by a certain time because you want them to come in, whatever that is. I think I would test that. And then I would probably push the boundaries and be like, what is 2 classes like? Like, does that yield more long-term customers or members, whatever that is? But I would test it. And there's a point of diminishing returns, like you just said. So, but that big prize isn't about having them sample it for a month, like you were mentioning. Like, that's the big prize that everybody wants. So that's the hook to get them to give you the information, and then you give them something that's valuable to you, does not cost you very much because it's an incremental cost. So that was good discussion. That was good discussion.
We do it all the time. And after a couple of years ago, I just got tired of my managers asking me this all the time. But probably every small business on the planet gets approached by the elementary school PTA or whoever is raising money, and they're having a silent auction, right? What can you give us, right? Well, I just told my manager, said, you don't have to ask me. Just give them a certificate for a free month of Pilates, right? And they're so happy, and they
Oh
make a few
yeah.
bucks off of it. And sometimes we see that person in the studio, and sometimes we don't, But and then the ones we do, sometimes we can convert into members, right? So it's great for us, and I don't need to be approving that stuff all the time.
Oh, that's good. Good point. All right. Speaking of staff, I found it very difficult when I have the wrong staff to get them to get out of the location. So I'm talking about a fitness type business right now that I was in. And I'm like, you got to get out there and go basically do what your people are doing, Ray. And they're like,
Yep.
no, I need to be in here. I don't want to do this. They just didn't want to do it. I hired the
Sure.
wrong people. I didn't set the right expectations. I
Right.
wanted to blame the franchisor for all that, but it was 100% me for hiring the wrong people that did not want to go market, did not want to go talk to people and whatnot. So how do you get your staff to buy into grassroots marketing and to go out, build those relationships and do the actual events?
Sure. Well, that phenomenon exists not only among staff, but sometimes among franchisees, right?
Yes.
We just want to, we want to stay in our office. We want to stay in our four walls. We have so much to do. It's easy to write a check for this, that, or the other. And so it's really a mind shift. And I said on the mastermind, I said, it's hard until it's easy, right? And what I mean by that is the mind shift, right? It's hard when when you think you don't have time for it, right? And you think it's not important. It becomes much easier when you do it. You see the results, and it just becomes part of your weekly, monthly activities, right? And so staff are the same way. They're spinning a gazillion plates, and they're like, oh, and now you want me to spend 3 hours twice a week out, going from business to business and trying to make relationships, and you want me to set up a free class somewhere or a pop up? Come on, man. And we just very politely tell them that that's the job, right? And we need you to do this. And obviously now it's part of our interview process, right? And not everybody is great at it, right? And that's okay. Particularly when you're looking for leadership people, managers, you're looking for some very specific characteristics. Nobody can be good at everything, in our case, we want people that can manage people. We want people that can train. We want people that can sell. And we'd like them to have some fitness experience. Those are the main things for us, right? If we add on to that, we want you to be great at social media too. And we want you to be great at B2B. That just keeps narrowing that funnel, right? And so to us, if we have a manager that is good at the important things, that's great. If they're good at getting out in the community, that's a bonus. But if they're not, they have to make sure that somebody on their staff is, right? They have to be able to delegate that, right? So once we get all that going and they get out in the marketplace and they do a couple of pop-ups and they do an event here and there, they begin to see the magic. They begin to see the results. They begin to see how fun it is, right? They begin to see, particularly if it's something where your members show up, the members or your customers that show up are usually some of your biggest supporters, right? So they already have good relationships with them anyway. It becomes fun for them, and then they see the results back in the studio, and once that occurs, then you don't have to keep beating that horse anymore. They're out there, they're bringing stuff to you saying, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? They love it. They see the results. But it is many times a mind shift among staff, sometimes among franchise owners too.
So what I heard in there that I think is really important is it's up to the franchise owner or the person hiring to make sure that that's part of the job description, the interview process, to make sure it's clear that that is what is expected, not just assuming. I assumed. I just was hopeful. I wanted them to do it, and they just didn't want to. I think another, and we're going to wind down here, but you also mentioned that you want them to sell. So many people, Ray, hate selling. When you get a fitness person or beauty person, like, they are passionate about the product. They're passionate about Pilates. They're passionate about being an esthetician or whatever the thing is. And they don't want to be selling. The word sell kind of makes them squirm a little bit. When I think about selling, I'm thinking about how do they educate and explain value to the customer versus trying to sell them. So it's a helpful, educational, value building approach versus, like, Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, like hardcore selling. Like, there's a difference there. So talk to me about, any challenges that you had with staff. That, I don't know if you experienced any of the things I just described. And if you did, like, how do you deal with that now?
Sure. The main thing that I tell people, if they're not a kind of a natural salesperson or they're a little, keep out, I tell, well, first of all, look, we're not a used car lot, right? I mean, nothing against used car lots, but we're if we are a good fit for that person's health and wellness goals, then great. Sometimes we're not, and that's fine. It's not a situation where, we have intro classes, right? It's not a situation where, somebody walks out of an intro class without joining. That's okay, right? We'll focus on the ones that are there. And so some people, if they're not experienced salespeople and they don't want to be salesy, which I'm not a natural salesperson either, so I get all that. The way I try to explain it is look at it this way. First of all, you're building value in what we have, right? I mean, that's kind of basic. Most people, in my opinion, they want to do this, but they can't get out of their own way. They keep coming up with, what about my schedule? Oh, what about this? What about, oh man, I don't know about this. And your job is to remove those barriers for them. And, well, golly, my schedule is so crazy, well, look at our schedule. I mean, golly, we have umpty class. We're here, we're there. I have this back issue and, well, this is how we handle that, and let me get you with one of our instructors to tell you how we do that. But if you look at it as your job is really helping them by removing these barriers to get them to the answer that they ultimately want to be able to give, right? Which is, yes, sign me up, right? What I've seen, when you have a member that joined through that kind of process, that's the member that 4, 6, 8 weeks later, they come in the studio and they find that person who signed them up and they give them a big hug. It's like, thank you so much. This is so right for me. I don't know what I was thinking. Thank you for helping me get through this. I love you and I love Club Pilates.
That is perfect. One last question for you. We did talk about this in the mastermind session, kind of in more detail, but just at a high level, we've both grown with different franchise brands. When you started really working on event-based marketing, neighborhood marketing at Club Pilates, they were a decent size company already with, they didn't have 10 locations open up or 20 locations open up. They had more than that. Yet I don't believe they had the event playbook or a fully built out like neighborhood marketing playbook. And that's why you kind of took it on yourself. Like, I'm just going to do that. Am I right or wrong with that?
You're first of all, you're right. They had a couple hundred studios. They did not have a playbook. They did not have any kind of formal plan, but they talked about it. So yeah, we want you to do Grassroots. And that was about it. But since then, now 1,100 studios later, and lots of very successful franchise owners doing some very creative things. Now they have the playbook. They have a standing monthly call for franchise owners dedicated to Grassroots. They're encouraging it. For instance, they before our convention in December, this past December, they sent a film crew out to Virginia Beach to be at some of the events that we were doing and to talk to us and talk to some of our key people and basically, how do you do this? And I mean, that was a 7-minute video, professionally done. They spent some money on it on the main stage at a convention with a couple thousand people at it. I mean, they want to focus on it, and now they do a much better job.
And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because a lot of people that are getting involved with an emerging franchise organization think that they will have the mature systems that somebody with 1,000 locations have or 500 locations. They're emerging for a reason, and there is heavier lifting for the franchisees as the brand grows. So you might develop some of this stuff on your own. Just be aware of that. And it's I would say it's very normal for emerging franchise systems to not have a fully built out playbook on everything. So I hope that gives some.
They're just trying to figure out how to collect royalties. Right?
I hope that gives some franchisees that are part of emerging brands, I would say less than 100 locations, some comfort. Like, okay, because you only know the context that you're in. And gives the franchisee some grace with the franchisor, but also like gives the franchisee like the desire to go out and build some of this stuff in conjunction with the franchisor to help build these things faster for the franchisor. And I think that's what the best emerging franchisors do. They see a franchisee doing really well and are like, oh, we need to go have a conversation with them to figure out what they're doing so we can roll that out the entire system. And while we're on the phone here, I just got a message from one of our brands with one of our new franchisees that is like in the first month and a half of opening that is just crushing it. And what I thought is like, we need to have a conversation with them. Like, what are you doing? We're very proud of them, very excited for them for doing that. But are they doing something that we as a franchisor can learn from? I think that's the mentality that franchisors should have early on. So, Ray, any last comments before I let you go?
No, I'll just support what you just said. John Hewitt would tell us all the time when those of us, when we're on the corporate staff, the best ideas come from the field.
Yeah.
They're out there, they're doing it every day. They're trying a few different things here and there, and listen to them. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, you just heard it. You just heard it from Ray, the foremost expert in franchise marketing. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really had fun.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.